It's great to see everybody's shining faces. Hope everyone's doing well. We have 2 minutes that we need to adopt, so I would like a motion and a second for approval of both sets of minutes. The first is the regular commission meeting of April 9th, and the second is the special committee meeting of April 21st. If I could get a motion and a second.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion. Thank you, Rochelle. Motion carries. Good morning, Curtis.
Good
We
morning.
have an executive director's report.
I do indeed. Thank you, Madam President. Nice to see everyone this morning. New employees, hi again. Great to have you here. For those commissioners who have not met our new employees, a great crop of new folks I got to meet and spend some time with last weekend. We said hello again this morning. Just a really great, diverse bunch of folks from different backgrounds and parts of the world. It's a ton of fun to see fresh faces come in the door, and I'm super optimistic. So glad to have everybody here. I would like to acknowledge, if I could, the safety champions for the month of April. There they are up on the screen. I'll note here just folks from different parts of our business. Marty from Marine Maintenance, and Chet, who's actually here in headquarters. Melissa on the TED side of the business, and Jamie out on the dredge. Folks in different parts of the business are able to show leadership and safety in different ways. And just a reminder, actually, Chet's was kind of funny in April, funny in a not funny way. He looked out the window and saw a contractor doing maintenance on the roof of the E-Concourse extension, and they weren't tied up to anything. It's absolutely unsafe behavior, and so Chet called it in. Just as an example, Jamie's leadership out on the dredge is about making sure that everyone's wearing PPE all the time. He's leading by showing how to do the work. So just a reminder for us that folks can show that safety leadership in lots of different ways in all parts of the business. So thanks to all those employees for being our safety champions in April. Dan, are you ready with a safety message for the day?
I am.
Thank you.
Good morning, commissioners. We often talk about our safety program in the context of occupational safety, operational procedure safety, and even design safety when we do projects and things like that. But another aspect of our safety program is our emergency management program here at PDX, because things do happen and we have to be prepared for them. Today is a day where we're doing a full-scale exercise at PDX of an aircraft crash on the runway. We are doing that in support of the FAA's requirement to do every 3 years, we do a full-scale exercise, and we do a tabletop on the other years. This exercise is done by the port staff, but also with support of the FEMA National Exercise Division. So we're excited to have that support today. Today's activity is really in 3 locations. We're using the Crosswind runway as the site of the incident. We have a lot of people signed up to be actors out there. For first responders to deal with both medical issues and extraction issues and things of that nature. So our police and fire units will certainly be out there active on that. And we'll also have the Emergency Operations Center stood up over at the Rental Car Center building for command, control, communications, and coordination with other agencies. And then finally, we'll practice having what we call a Friends and Relatives Center, or FRC, which is a location you want to have away from the incident and the command function, where people, loved ones of anybody involved in an incident can go, get information, be out of kind of sight of the media and things like that, and just get the most up-to-date information they can in a place they can be together with each other. So we'll practice all of that today. There's a long list of agencies, both regional and federal, that are supporting us today. And over 350 participants in it. If I leave during the commission meeting, please accept my apologies. It's that I'm playing a role in the exercise, and if the EOC calls me, they're going to ask questions and they need answers right away. So we'll do that. Want to give a quick shout out to the port employees who are setting this all up. All the hard work that went into it. It takes us months to prepare for this. It'll take us a couple months afterwards to do the after action report and identify places where we did okay and places where we need improvement, and then develop plans for those. And then finally, a shout out to United Airlines, who's providing an aircraft for us today to practice in, which is always great. And then to the Red Cross as well, which is a very critical organization, especially at the Friends and Relatives Center, in kind of managing that whole operation. So without it, we really couldn't do as good of a job, and we're pleased to have them with it. And that is today's safety message.
Terrific. Thanks, Dan. Really appreciate it. As Ted Lasso would say, practice. Practice. Terrific. You might wonder, commissioners, if this is just Curtis having a cluttered desk this morning. It is not. This is at the end of the Met Gala is the end of award season, right? So we know that award season is over, but we've been collecting awards at the port for the last 2 or 3 months, and this is like the airport EGOT, the Emmy, Grammy, Obie, Tony. How am I doing, Diego? The Oscar? Whatever. I was close. So the first one we got this month was the Oregon Travel and Tourism Industry Achievement Award. It's the biggest annual award for impact on Oregon tourism from Travel Oregon. It's called the Governor's Award, presented to PDX Next. Vince and team and Dan and team, really happy. It's a gorgeous thing. I got to go and join the team for the receiving of the award, and I believe if we can pull this off, they showed a video to introduce the award, and we thought we'd share it this morning, Commissioners. So if you would run the little clip.
I'll be your passenger tonight. Let's close our eyes and put a finger on a map, and where it lands is where we'll drive.
The outpouring of positive feedback, especially right when we opened and everybody was first coming in here, was just incredible. And just the expressions of wonder and amazement on their faces. I think a lot of people didn't realize when they booked their flight that it was going to be a different airport than they were used to. And just seeing that amazement really makes you proud to be part of the project.
We really started thinking about PDX Next at the port 10 years ago. And as we thought about the needs, we needed to be able to move more people through, but also we wanted to be earthquake resilient. We started to think more about if you wanted to do this in a way that reflected Oregon values, what would that look like?
We knew we wanted to create this walk in the forest, but we didn't know exactly how we would do it.
To me, like an airport is a magical in-between space where travelers' journey starts and ends.
The choice to use wood in this building, I think, is really interesting because we got to play with the idea of how do we celebrate the people of this state through the wood choices and selection, and how we support those jobs, connecting urban to rural in a really beautiful way.
This is not a project that went to South Carolina or to British Columbia to get wood. We got wood from within 300 miles at this spot.
One of the major challenges of this project was building it over an operating airport, and how do we get passengers through, and not only that, but how do we keep the baggage handling systems running and the MEP systems running and do it all safely. There were really big ideas that had to come into play to make that happen. Building the roof across the airfield, prefabricating the whole thing, and then sliding it over the building just took so much planning and so much effort from so many people to make that come together.
The size of the project was so great that it required a lot of people to contribute.
It's about 30,000 people who contributed, and it just took a lot of collaboration and cooperation and teamwork, whether it's out in the woods or out on the tarmac. It was just every step of the way a pretty amazing experience.
It was really important to the Port of Portland that we make an effort to include small businesses as much as possible on this project.
The port has an ongoing commitment by folding in smaller businesses, providing kind of all the hand-holding that you need to operate in a context like this. And so they've made that commitment in terms of resources and personnel, but also in terms of a mindset, right, of saying, we're here to help you.
I think all of us have been in other airports, and one of the things that struck us at the Port of Portland was that you go into these places and you could be in Shanghai or in Chicago, and you don't know where you are. But if you go in and you see Oven and Shaker or Loyal Legion or Portland Roasting, you suddenly feel like, oh, this reflects me.
The sense of pride and ownership of everyone involved in this project, it's not just the architects, it's not just the managers, but it's literally everyone on this project is so proud to be here.
And, their families will come here. They'll be able to tell their stories to their families and take pride in their work.
Most projects we build, you really never get to go back and see them. This is a project that my family goes through, my friends go through, I'm going to go through for the rest of my life.
I think Port has a great art program, been around a long time, and I travel many places too, but I think it's very rare, like a airport promoting local artists, living here as working as an artist for 20 years, and then having my first public art opportunity in here was very exciting.
If there's ever a testimony to the success of this project, it's that people actually decide to come out here, pay for parking, and just hang out.
I think my favorite part of this building is that it's a celebration of how beautiful forests can be when they're managed and stewarded well, and how beautiful the built environment can be. The wood story wouldn't matter if the building wasn't as beautiful as it was, and the wood sourcing wouldn't resonate as much if it didn't represent people doing really high levels of stewardship on the ground.
We are the international airport for Pendleton and for Eugene and for Astoria and all over Oregon and Southwest Washington, and people are proud of this place. They feel like it belongs to them, and that's really gives me goosebumps to say it. It's really an honor to be connected to the people who did this work and everyone here and the thousands of people. It's an amazing experience. So yeah, it's great. To the team, really great. And thank you, commissioners, for your indulgence. It was a little longer than I remembered it, but especially, and that handsome devil in that video was really great. Last week, we got another, this one from, this is Travel Portland's Portland Award, recognizes the recipient, the greatest overall contribution to Portland's visitor industry. Another beautiful award that the team received last week. I got to walk on the catwalk to receive that one. Dan, you know what I'm talking about. And then lastly, in April, we were named one of the 50 most innovative companies in the country, up there with NVIDIA and others, and the #1 most innovative travel and leisure companies all around PDX. So just hats off to the team. Incredible work, the number of people involved in the project, Port staff and others, partners. It's just been really incredible. So also kind of fun to be receiving these awards in this season. On other PDX news, Real ID, you all may recall, this is we were deeply concerned about what might happen on May 7th with the implementation of Real ID, 6 years in the offing. It turned out to be more of a Y2K event than a pandemic event. On the first day, our partners at TSA tell us that 2% of passengers had non-compliant IDs, and it was managed really smoothly. So we're honestly just thrilled about how it went and appreciate our partners from TSA. We have a bunch of fun stuff going on in and around the port right now. We just finished the Public Works Career Fair for the second year in a row, where we team up with other public agencies to connect job seekers with opportunities and create opportunities for things like free professional headshots and resume reviews and mock interviews. Just a fun way to try to help connect more people to opportunities here at the port. We have next Monday, May 19th, and we have a special speaker at something we're calling Pathways to Prosperity. It's the port's first day-long offering of connections for trying to bring folks into the contracting space to do work for the port or on port facilities. Catherine Lamb has agreed to speak, and I know that our team is really excited about having her to talk about how small businesses can connect to the work here at the port. Our team's just done a lot of work putting that event together, and thank you in advance for your leadership, Commissioner Lamb. And then finally, we are in International Trade Week in Oregon. We're celebrating This whole week, we have visits from a number of consuls general. Tomorrow includes the UK and Canada. Tomorrow evening, we're hosting Celebrate Trade event in the Portland Art Museum. Just a reminder of how deeply connected Oregon is to international trade. We are one of 11 states, and Keith and Sampath, thank you for your questions this morning. The impromptu test you gave to new employees, are we an importer or an exporter state? And it's true, there are only 11 net export states in the country, and we are one of those. So just a really incredible connection to trade. So happy to be celebrating trade this week in a time that is maybe feeling a little uncertain around trade. And that, Madam President, concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Curtis. Could you speak briefly to what is happening at Newark and how we feel about coverage here?
Yeah, I certainly will do my best, and I'm going to phone a friend here for Dan if he has others. He's been participating in a lot of industry conversations about it. I'd say we're paying close attention. We have a high level of confidence in our own team, both around maintenance and around operations. We have best-in-class folks here at PDX. Our partners in the tower, FAA at PDX, is fully staffed, and so we don't have deep concerns about feeling that there are big gaps here. I think industry-wide, there are some, reasonable concerns about what systems are we going to have operating across the country and what work at the federal level can disrupt otherwise high-functioning systems. I think the industry as a whole will tell you we are due for an overhaul of our technology systems, and the way you do that is smart planning over time. I think I am concerned that not be done in a rushed way, that is a thoughtful process to upgrade safety systems and management, in-flight management systems over time. Dan, I don't know if you want to add anything.
You got it.
We've been talking, and if you're interested, I'd be happy to share with you some of the industry conversations that are going on out there. We don't have any deep insight into the incidents at Newark, for example, but it is disconcerting. We don't have many of those concerns here, but it does require that sort of active engagement. And I'll say as well, our engagement with our federal partners is very good. Really good relationships across the board.
Any questions, Curtis? Commissioner Lamb.
Not a question, but I have to say, Curtis, that's a lot of faith that you and the team put on me to have the stage to myself and share my story next Monday. So wish me luck. But I have to say, all of these award, not just to our leadership's work, but I think that the executive team, especially Vince, to pull that project together for our region, not just the Port of Portland, that's amazing. So I just want to say, take this opportunity. Thank you, Vince, for your strong leadership there. And congratulations.
Thank you. It's incredible.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments? All right, can I get a motion and a second to adopt the executive director's report?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We're moving to public comment. And as always, we welcome public comment to the port. And your comments and testimony are indeed important to us. We did receive written comments from Blaine Ackley, which were shared with the commission earlier this week. And I believe we have two individuals on virtually to provide public comment. As a reminder, we do ask that you limit your comments to 2 minutes, and I will gently remind you when you reach the 2-minute mark. So we'll start with Mr. Ackley. If you're on, welcome.
Okay. I'm on, and can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Well, thank you, Chair Koba and commissioners. I come before you today with two issues that I've already outlined in my written comments, but I wanted to highlight them in the juxtaposition to me of the vote to virtually end DEI programs with the request from the FAA, I think is I'm sure you share my distress in this action. And I just wish that we had, the port, gone to look at other port districts, had looked at legal remedies for this, because once you give in to a bully, the bully will always come back for more. Remember that. So I hope that more won't be demanded from us in the future. Second, just almost coincidental to that, I received this email saying that the draft plan for the unleaded fuel at Hillsborough Airport would be available sometime in late spring or summer. And, this has been postponed and postponed and postponed. And for me, the juxtaposition of the FAA says jump, and we jump, and yet the health of the people say we need immediate action now, and it's just delayed and delayed. And now we're going to have a draft plan, and we'll probably have to have meetings on the draft plan, and we'll just go on and on. And I think that we have the possibility here of losing federal money versus the possibility of losing the health of and well-being of our citizens here in Hillsborough. So I wish this would be treated as a crisis, but it is apparently not. And in closing, I would like to ask that you stop the port's permission for the Hillsborough Air Show. It's like, okay,
Sir,
so
actually, I hate to interrupt, but we are over 2 minutes. So if you can wrap up, that would be great.
yeah, I'm just wrapping up right now. Thank you. And if we could just say, let's not have the Hillsborough Air Show. That's too much lead already out there. So let's have a pause in that until we have a lead-free aviation gas. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Mickey Barnes.
Hello, this is Mickey Barnes. I want to thank you for the opportunity to submit this testimony. I want to go on record. First of all, I want to say to endorse Blaine's testimony. I am in support of what he stated there. I'd also like to go on record as voicing my opposition to the decision to revoke the social equity policies at the port in an effort to comply with the Trump administration's all-out assault on diversity and inclusion. I would have appreciated seeing a leadership role by the port on par with what Harvard University has done, and just banding together with other ports and airports in the same position and just refusing to budge on social equity and any number of other issues that weren't on the table at the time. According to an Oregonian article, Governor Kotek, who has appointed several of the current commissioners, said the port, quote, didn't have a lot of choice, unquote, but to drop its equity policy because of the federal funding on the line. To be clear, port commissioners did have a choice, just as Harvard had a choice in opposing Trump's policy. I ask you to own the choices you're making there and to recognize you can make other choices that are supportive of this community, of the environment, of ecological diversity. It is a choice you're making. I think the problem is the ORS 778, which focuses totally on economic gain, but ignores all these other vital issues related to climate change, environmental pollution, lead emissions, and so forth. I would recommend a complete overhaul of ORS 778 so that it can reach beyond just financial gain in every decision the port makes. So thank you for taking the time to hear my my testimony. I'll submit written testimony later today.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes. We have general discussion items, and I'd like Curtis to introduce the first item.
Terrific. I'm looking out, seeing. Okay, thank you. Terrific. We're going to have Emily Rice and David Huang join us this morning to introduce the Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. It is, commissioners, as you know, practice both to recognize the work of our employees focused on employee resource groups, but also a recognition of the rich diversity of our employee base and the contributions of folks from around the world to the activities of the port. So I'm really happy to welcome Emily and David to present this morning.
Thank you, Curtis.
Good. Good job.
I wasn't.
Hang on a second,
That's
Emily.
okay.
If we could have, thank you. Perfect. Okay, there you go, Emily. Thank you.
Awesome. Good morning, President Koba and commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today as we recognize and celebrate Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, a time to honor the cultures, contributions, and resilience of AANHPI communities across the United States. I am Emily Rice, IT Senior Manager for Governance and Project Services, and I'm joined today here by David Huang, Principal Financial Analyst. This month is more than a commemoration. It's a reflection on history, identity, and on the enduring spirit of generations who have shaped this nation in ways both profound and often under-recognized. Next slide, please. The origin of the Heritage Month dates back to 1978, when President Jimmy Carter signed a resolution that designated a week in May as Asian Pacific American Heritage Week. The official designation was signed into law in 1992 and celebrates the AANHPI community, whose variety of contributions have built our culture and society. From the laborers who built the Transcontinental Railroad in the 1880s, to the civil rights activists who fought for justice and equality, to the essential workers, scientists, artists, educators, and entrepreneurs of today, the AANHPI community has been a cornerstone of American progress. Yet the AANHPI experience has also included struggle. Waves of exclusion, discrimination, and violence have punctuated our history, from the Chinese Exclusion Act in 1882 to the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II, to the rise of anti-Asian hate incidents in recent years, fueled by fear and misinformation. It is vital we confront these realities, not to dwell in the past, but to learn from it, to build bridges, foster understanding, and create spaces where every voice is heard and valued.
Thank you, Emily. Next slide, please. In many Asian cultures, bamboo is a symbol of strength and grace, able to bend without breaking, to weather storms and still rise tall. It reminds us of the enduring power of resilience and reflects the journey of so many of our communities who, in the face of adversity, continue to grow, adapt, and contribute in extraordinary ways. Here at the port, the PIERG is a voluntary employee formed network. Next slide, please. Open to all that connects, inspires, and empowers Asian American and Pacific Islander employees. The API-ERG seeks to elevate awareness and advocate for the needs of port employees in the greater API community through educational, cultural, and social events. And next slide. This month, we encourage all of us to take the time to learn, to attend cultural events, support AANHPI organizations, and engage in conversations that challenge and expand our understanding. And finally, let us remember that the celebration of AANHPI heritage does not end with the end of the month of May. It is a lifelong commitment to share prosperity, to community, and to the shared belief that every culture adds to the richness of our collective story. Thank you for honoring this month with your time, your attention, and your continued commitment to uplifting all communities.
Thank you, Emily and David. We might have questions for you. Don't leave us yet. I just want to check with commissioners to see if anyone has any comments or questions.
I do have a comment, Madam President. Emily and David, thank you so much for sharing with us. I think this is beautiful that we recognized the heritage, which really the inspirations and the source of strength that keep us going. I think during this time of uncertainties, we appreciate you. I mean, not only we see you, but we appreciate you, and we stand by you. I think that's a commitment from us. And I'm so glad to see the bamboo up there as a symbolic of strength, because I think as we rise up, we make rooms and we rise up together. So thank you for that.
Else? Thank you very much. I echo everything Commissioner Lamb said and can't say it nearly as well. So just double. Thank you very much. Enjoy the month and the year.
Thank you.
Our next general discussion item, I'll call on Dan Pippinger to introduce it. He's still with us, so that's a good sign.
Well, if the questions are hard, I'm out of here. Good morning again, commissioners. I'm filling in today for Christina Kelchner, who's the Executive Chief Development Services Officer here at the Port, which the environmental team reports into. She's off celebrating the college graduation of her son in New York, and I will be following her next week for my last daughter's college graduation. I'm very excited about that. We've been at the environmental work probably for over 3 decades here at the Port, and we have been building that team and the competency of it. And here to do a general discussion item is Jen Bees, who's the Director of Environmental for the Port. I guess I just would point out, we often think of environmental as like regulatory compliance, but it's a very dynamic field. We're dealing with climate change, new knowledge of ecosystems and wildlife, new chemicals. All of these things are actively going on in the background and challenging us every day. And our effort to improve the environment we're in now, and not, to minimize the impacts we have on the environment and the communities around us. The team itself is about 30 dedicated Port employees. They're passionate about what they do. And I think the thing that's most interesting I'd like to share with you is how embedded they are in the day-to-day work of the Port, both in our project development, in how we're managing our facilities, how we're doing projects, how we're handling noise, wildlife issues. They are really intertwined with the operations of our marine terminals, our industrial lands, and our aviation facilities as well. So very proud of that team and the work they do. And Jen is going to provide an overview of that, and we'll be happy to take your questions about the environmental program.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Can you hear me? Okay, great. So good morning. It's so lovely to have a chance to speak with you all today. My team covers a lot of ground, literally and figuratively, and I could take an inordinate amount of your time telling you about all the amazing stuff we do. Instead, in the interest of time, I'm going to share just select highlights from each of our program areas that really illustrate how we work to protect people and the planet while also achieving business objectives. Since I'm going to cover a lot of topics at a really high level, please just jump in, ask questions. If you want to drill down into any topic that's of interest, we can certainly do that. Next slide. So before we get into the highlights, I just want to review my team's core functions. We manage compliance for existing environmental laws, as well as those coming down the pike related to emerging contaminants and changing policies. We also champion the Port's guiding principle of environmental leadership in all that we do. We recommend discretionary above and beyond investments in the realm of sustainability, as well as larger scale air quality, energy, and resilience initiatives. We also work hard to leverage partnerships to maximize the social and environmental benefits of the work that we do. Next slide. So water is really critical to Port operations, but it's also a really important part of what makes the Northwest a really great place to live. We conserve drinking water through the use of low-flow plumbing fixtures, as well as rainwater capture and reuse at the PDX rental car wash facility. We've developed water rights for non-potable surface and groundwater, which we use in a variety of applications. In 2023, non-potable water represented 32% of port-wide water use, which saved about $500,000 annually. And then the PDX de-icing facility is a really cool, innovative approach to stormwater treatment, where microorganisms break down de-icing solution runoff before it releases into the Columbia Slough, and this improves water quality and water temperature. Next slide. So we do adhere to the mantra of reduce, reuse, recycle port-wide. However, PDX generates 75% of all of our waste, so we definitely focus our larger investments there. The first best step is to just use less, and the Green Plate program is a really cool example of how we embrace this philosophy. The Green Plate program provides durable dishes and silverware to diners at PDX at no cost to restaurants. We were the first program in the nation to pilot this program in 2017. However, due to COVID and then construction in the terminal, we've had a temporary disruption, but we're planning for relaunch terminal-wide once construction wraps up. The next best option is to then reuse what would otherwise end up in a landfill. So PDX restaurants donate ready-to-go unused food through local partnership with Urban Gleaners. We donate about 400 meals a month to over 40 locations in the Portland area. We also coordinate tenant cleanup events, which gives tenants a chance to donate items rather than dispose of them. And when we can't reduce and reuse, we definitely try to promote recycling through signage. We compost food scraps, and we monitor the waste stream to identify opportunities for improvement. Next slide. So the port owns, it's a major landowner, and my team manages 900 acres of natural habitat and mitigation sites. Our conservation and mitigation program works to enhance habitat with a focus on sensitive species. We partner with others in our region to combat invasives, and we also help others conduct research on our land. We support the port's work with local tribes, and we foster partnerships to honor and celebrate cultural and historic resources. Our aviation wildlife hazard management program is nationally and internationally recognized as best in class due to a focus on innovation and adaptive management to deter wildlife through non-lethal means. Our goal is to manage risk at all of our facilities to minimize the possibility of collisions between wildlife and aircraft. PDX in particular is located on a migratory flyway and at the convergence of two rivers, so there's a lot of birds on and around the airfield. And a few examples of how we work to deter wildlife through non-lethal means is strategic landscape protocols, noise cannons, and a raptor relocation program. And all of these things just serve to ensure safe and efficient airport operations. Next slide. So due to the nature of activities on our properties, there's always some risk that pollutants will get into the environment, but it's our responsibility to really minimize that risk. We actively monitor known and emerging pollutants, and we work to prevent contamination in the first place from getting out into the environment. We have a spill response team at the ready should there be a spill from port or tenant activities, and we invest in cleanup when needed to protect the public and the environment. Per and polyfluoral alkyl substances, say that 3 times, PFAS, is a relatively recent example of how we navigate the challenges of emerging contamination in the cleanup process. PFAS are used in a wide range of products: nonstick cookware, stain and water resistant fabrics, firefighting foam, personal care products. Excuse me. So we were an early actor in the state on PFAS. We agreed with DEQ in 2017 to investigate contamination associated with the historic use of FAA-required firefighting foam that contains PFAS. The investigation found that there's contamination, localized contamination in soil, groundwater, and surface water, but there's no impact to drinking water. And although we're waiting for the state to adopt regulations, we decided to take a few voluntary early actions to be more protective of the public and the health, public health and the environment. We've been educating community members about, by funding Multnomah County fish consumption advisories in the slough since 2023. We were the first airport in the nation to transition to a PFAS-free firefighting foam once FAA had approved an alternative in 2024. And we've initiated a source control project that will prevent an area of contaminated groundwater from entering our stormwater system and moving into nearby water bodies. All of these actions that we've taken to date just position us to move really efficiently through DEQ's regulatory framework once that's adopted. Okay, next slide. So we work to minimize community exposure from aircraft in a few ways. We invested in a ground run-up enclosure, that's the top image there, which reduces noise generated during routine maintenance of aircraft. We also have a Fly Quiet program, which outlines voluntary procedures that pilots can follow that is intended to really minimize residential exposure to aircraft noise. We then monitor adoption of these voluntary procedures, which then informs outreach to pilots in the community. Next slide. So our energy program focuses on cleaner sources of energy, as well as just using less where we can. Oregon's community solar program enables solar energy produced in one location to be shared by multiple subscribers, and also offers discounted rates for low-income households. We participate in two ways. There's a statewide financing program, and then there's on-site projects developed by local partners on our land. We have 4 on-site projects planned currently. One is expected to go live this year. The other 3 are in really early stages of development. And this has all been enabled by Portland Clean Energy Fund grants totaling about $35 million to date. We hear a lot, and today we've heard a little bit about sustainably sourced wood in the terminal for good reason, but there are also other invisible investments that really are a compelling part of our environmental story. Largely due to a ground source heat pump to heat and cool the terminal. We're cutting energy intensity in half while almost doubling the size of the building. And we're anticipating about $500,000 of incentives from the Energy Trust of Oregon due to the expected scale of energy savings. Next slide. Okay. Our air quality program prioritizes reductions in diesel and carbon emissions. We're a founding member of a multi-agency clean air construction program that was designed to reduce diesel emissions from all construction occurring in the Portland metro area, at least for participating agencies. Renewable diesel is a drop-in alternative to petroleum diesel. It reduces carbon emissions, it improves air quality, and it actually reduces maintenance costs because it's a cleaner burning fuel. Renewable diesel is currently in use at PDX maintenance and at Terminal 6, and we're working to expand adoption port-wide. Then in addition to projects that we can implement today, we're also evaluating options for zero emission technologies as part of our path to net zero carbon by 2050 at PDX. For example, we're partnering with 2 national research labs to evaluate the feasibility of hydrogen fueling infrastructure in an airport environment, as well as the potential to use hydrogen-powered buses as mobile electricity sources in the event of a power outage or some kind of other natural disaster. This study will provide invaluable insights for our own planning, but is also going to benefit the industry as a whole. And although environmental investments are often perceived solely as expenses, our investments in carbon emission reductions do generate revenue through Oregon Clean Fuels Program. Since fiscal year 2018, we've sold about $750,000 of credits from EV charging stations, renewable natural gas, and PDX parking shuttle buses, and the opportunity to generate more revenue only increases as we continue to make more investments. So in addition to what the port owns and controls, we're also really motivated to, next slide, thank you. Get ahead of myself. Okay, in addition to what the port owns and controls, we're really motivated to support our partners in advancing their efforts to improve air quality as well. Airports across the world are working to advance electrification of their diesel ground support equipment as well as sustainable aviation fuel. For context, diesel emissions at PDX from airlines ground support equipment is 22 times greater than what the port generates. We're in the process of installing charging stations at all gates in the terminal, and we're working with airlines to confirm their timeframes for converting equipment. My team was successful in advocating for the Oregon Clean Fuels Program to add a pathway for electric ground support equipment, and the state of Washington actually adopted our work in order to do the same in their state. Thinking of scale again of partner emissions, commercial aircraft at PDX also generate significantly more carbon emissions than the port, the scale of about 52 times greater. And so sustainable aviation fuel or SAF is the only viable opportunity to decarbonize commercial aviation. Similar to renewable diesel, SAF is designed as like a drop-in fuel that can be blended with conventional jet fuel. As an airport, we don't distribute or sell fuel, but we want to do what we can to make sure that the airport is SAF ready. For example, in 2022, this commission approved an amendment to a ground lease for PDX Fuel Company to ensure and included provisions to ensure that the new facility would be seismically resilient as well as could accommodate SAF in the future. We're a member of a national SAF coalition to accelerate supply chain development. We support regulatory incentives to make SAF more widely available. And we coordinate with YVR in British Columbia and CTAC in Washington because we share a common distribution path for jet fuel. Another category of partner emissions that we're working to address is general aviation avgas. 100 low lead avgas is currently the FAA-approved universal fuel used in general aviation. In late 2023, the EPA issued an endangerment finding about low lead avgas. Until the FAA approves a universal fleet authorization for a drop-in unleaded substitute, airports can't ban the sale of low lead avgas. And we can't control this transition, but we really want to do what we can to figure out how to support voluntary adoption before of FAA's authorization of an unleaded substitute. We're working to make it available at our facility at a cost that is competitive with the low lead avgas. Pilots, however, have expressed concerns about safety and refueling availability. Like if you think about if you're going to buy an electric vehicle, you need to make sure that you have enough charging stations to support your personal and professional kind of travel. So one facility alone oftentimes will not really work for pilots. It may be challenging to find voluntary adopters, but we're still going to do what we can. And we're not uniquely impacted, so a statewide approach is going to be really important as part of this transition. Next slide. So in closing, Curtis started with awards. I'm going to end with awards. I just want to note a few recent awards we received due to the values that were embedded in these projects. The PDX Next program represents a generational investment in modernizing the airport, but it's also a really critical opportunity to advance our environmental initiatives. My team will continue to demonstrate environmental leadership in all that we do while we're working to advance 5 key priorities. For port initiatives, we want to achieve net zero carbon by 2050 at PDX in addressing PFAS. And for our partners, the focus is on electrification of ground support equipment, SAF, and unleaded avgas. I really want to acknowledge my team and everybody at the port that demonstrates environmental leadership. It takes a village to make a difference, and I'm super grateful for everybody's contributions to protecting people on the planet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jen. That was a lot.
That was a lot of talking,
That was a
right?
lot.
I mean, come on.
Questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I love to see all of the environmental focus and all of the things the port are continuing to do to manage the operations and the environment. Maybe just a couple questions. When you think about maybe the ground support equipment and the fact that the more you electrify infrastructure, it's not necessarily free. How have we comprehended what that increase in electricity is? And maybe the second part of the question is, how much of the port's incoming electrical infrastructure is green? Meaning, are we getting our power from a coal-fired plant in Idaho?
Yeah, just 2 easy questions. No problem. So the first one, we have looked at the economics and we created this ROI calculator for airlines that compares diesel equipment compared to electric, and it actually is a much more financially beneficial option to go electric because of largely reduced maintenance costs, because you don't, like, the burning of fuel, right, creates a lot of buildup in engines. You have to do a lot of maintenance and replacement. Electric is a totally different animal. So that's one thing. The upfront cost is probably the biggest barrier, though, to get over, even though it ends up paying off in the long run. It's that initial hurdle. But a number of airlines are really interested and motivated to do this on their own. So we're just kind of working with them to figure out the timing. And then your second question was about the carbon intensity of the electricity provided. So it's different by utility. Pacific Power, which serves PDX, still relies on natural gas and coal quite a bit, more than maybe other utilities in the state. So in the short term, it could increase our net carbon emissions, right? And the net benefit is still worth it, and the grid is going to clean up, right? We've got renewable energy projects going. There's a lot of work that we're doing to, in time, right, make sure that we're getting to that net zero path. So we're not too concerned about temporary blips because it's still the right direction to head in. Did that answer your question?
It did.
Okay.
I was just going to add, yes, we've thought about all the power needs. We brought in another substation feeder a couple of years ago and budgeted this kind of activity for it. We're very particular about giving our power out because we want to think about the long term. So yes, we have a power budget. Our planning and engineering teams are monitoring that. And when we get requests from customers and things like that, it's, sometimes these are hard conversations of like, well, yes, but it's not free, right? You can't get power for free. And maybe we need to run another substation line. How are we going to fund that? So it's all part of our development program.
Yeah. No, thanks. And I think where I was going was I just wanted to make Curtis was still committed to funding, and Antoinette was going to figure out how to go fund those things because being environmentally friendly and green is never free. But it is the right thing to do.
And I will say, too, we have been successful in securing, I think, $80 million in funding over the last 5-ish years. And granted, the landscape has changed, but the landscape of funding opportunities will shift as well. And we're always looking for opportunities to help really mitigate that green premium to do the right thing.
Commissioner Adams.
Jen, it's so nice to meet you. And really applaud the work to lead on environmental issues. I have a question about the ways that your work in greening and improving outcomes in operations and in wildlife impact or environmental impact connects to humans, in particular the PFAS transition. I'm hoping that it goes quickly or that transition has already happened. But one question is the new fire retardant material in full implementation? I assume there's some complexity in the operations in doing that as the first question. And then could you talk to us more about how your work interfaces with the human habitat of the port, where the employees of the port or the firefighters, the maintenance people, the janitorial folks who are coming in contact with highly toxic materials, how do you connect with them in the organization? Mm-hmm. And do you run the part of the business that alerts the humans to the consequences of the chemicals?
That's a great question. So luckily, I will say we don't have a lot of issues with direct exposure to humans, especially PFAS in particular. There were already a lot of protocols mandated by FAA on how you just handle foam and training and all the things. We've done a firefighter health study. We participated in a national health study that has indicated blood levels are actually remarkably low. PFAS is ubiquitous. I think 98% of humans in at least the States will have some presence of PFAS in our blood because it is everywhere. So we can't wholly prevent it, but we don't have real significant concerns about exposure of people currently due to something. It's ingestion that's the real consideration, and this is localized to soil, groundwater, and surface water, and we have a lot of protocols in place for how to manage it on construction projects and things like that. More broadly than PFAS, well, so the transition's done. We did it in 2024 for all of our fire trucks and suppression systems. We've been coordinating with tenants to make sure we understand their plans if they haven't already transitioned. And then more broadly, we do data-driven decision making, and we're always looking at the most significant risks to public health and the environment. So diesel emissions, for example, is one of the biggest impacts to public health in our region. I think wood smoke from fires and residential fires and wildfires is the biggest, but diesel is second. So that's why we prioritize all the work that we're doing, including working with our partners with the ground support equipment. That's not ours to own and control, but it is the vast majority of emissions from our facilities. So we're going to really do what we can to support cleaning that up.
And how do you
then-
connect to the humans? So is there somebody, the equivalent of you for human habitats?
Well, Steve Danielson is our safety director, and he's on the OSHA side, the occupational safety health. Is that what OSHA is? Yeah. So it's pretty distinct, kind of the work that we do, but when and if it ever was something where there was overlap, we definitely would coordinate. Yeah, but they're pretty clear lanes that we operate in.
So yours is wildlife and operations.
Environmental and public health from environmental pollution, and then Steve would be more of the direct operational safety, buildings, kind of the fundamental maintenance. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Sampat?
So thank you very much for not just the presentation, but the leadership that you and your team show. I think it's important that this is part of our values across the board. Question. As you look at other ports, especially internationally, have you benchmarked what we do internationally or across the country? And is there somebody that we want to be like, or what's our aspiration?
That's a really deep question. I mean, I will say that every port is so different for so many reasons. And this sounds really cheesy. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but it's true. I think I want to be like the port that we are, because their values really have become more and more entrenched in decision making. We have a lot of opportunities. We also have a lot of constraints, and we have to navigate within those. So I don't think we can really benchmark ourselves against other countries that have different policies and resources and all of the things. But I do think we're always paying attention to what's going on, right? We want to kind of track innovation and progress and see what we can adopt here. But I hope that wasn't too cheesy, but
I'm going to be more direct. I think embedded in our values is we take action when we recognize there's an issue. We don't wait for the regulations to catch up. I would say on the PFAS, we were the first commercial airport in the United States to transition. We didn't have to. We could have just sat around and waited 2 years until maybe money became available or the rules became a little clearer. We're doing a big ground source project ahead of schedule on the asset because it's the right thing to do. So we don't always get everything exactly right, but the port does not wait for somebody to tell us to do something when we can see what needs to be done. And I think, just as a attitude and a value, I'm super proud of that. And that's why I said it to the new employees today, is that it's a great group of employees who are passionate and want to help our community. And that means we act, we don't wait. And so I'm proud of the port we are. I don't think there's another port I would say I want to be, but there are other ports that do certain things that we aspire to and see. But how we act, we're top.
Thank you.
Commissioner Strader.
Well, first of all, thank you for that comprehensive report. That was absolutely wonderful and very in-depth. And the bigger thing is really thank you for what you and your team do. We talk about this culturally, how important it is to us, but it's actually translated through what you do in action on the job. That's so important. Sometimes it's easier to say things, say that you believe in them, but making sure that you lived them and they're part of our routine in what we do. Thank you for translating that into real action. Then I did have another question for you. Based on what is the adoption rate of the voluntary program that we kind of put together to diminish the effects on the local community that you were talking about as best practices as far as flight and noise goes?
Oh boy. I'm going to give you the rough approximation because I can't remember the exact number, but I believe there's different classifications of aircraft, and we're between in the 70s to 80s for adoption, depending on the different aircraft. So pretty good, but it could probably be better. And that's why we look at the data and we think about how to engage differently to ensure consistent broad awareness.
Do we do anything to acknowledge that, to really try to promote it, and also maybe publicly through our own websites, to put that out in the community so people really understand that you're making that effort to try to improve that?
You know, it is a really great question. And I will say, we are working on really evolving how we look at engaging with the community, including pilots. There are a lot of opportunities to really make sure folks are aware of what we do and what we can't do, what opportunities there are to mitigate noise in residences, like low-income weatherization programs, or who knows, right? There's a lot more. We do spend a lot of time just with technology and kind of more receiving information, like complaints and stuff. And I think we want to really shift our focus a little bit to be more proactive, like you're saying. So I would anticipate seeing more of that in the next couple of years. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thanks for an
Awesome.
excellent
Thank you so much
presentation.
for your time.
Appreciate it, Jen. And Dan.
And Dan.
All right, action items. First item, Antoinette. Big deal going on here that time of year.
Good. Good morning, commissioners. Always a pleasure to be in front of you. I want to start by just thanking you all for your engagement and support up to this point of the budget. Last month we came before you to review the budget, and as I'm sure you all can imagine, just given all the volatility and uncertainty that we've been facing, this particular budget season was pretty involved, I'll say that. But I just want to reiterate what I talked about last month, which was we did, I think, a really commendable job of bringing forward a conservative budget to you all and really contemplating and just thinking about where we are at this point in time from an economic standpoint, and obviously administration and just the uncertainty. So today, the purpose of today, I'm going to turn it over to Fran and have her walk you through some adjustments that have been made to the budget since last month, give you all a chance to digest that, and then we will be seeking your approval for the budget, and then also to be able to move the budget forward to the TSCC in preparation for our hearing in June. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Fran.
Okay, next slide. Just really quickly want to recap kind of where we are in the process. I mean, I think Antoinette has kind of already addressed that in her opening remarks, but just to comply with the Oregon revised statutes that govern the local budget process, we brought a public hearing on our proposed budget to you last month. So today we're going to be requesting your approval to submit our budget to our oversight body, the Tax Supervising and Conservation Commission. They will hold a public hearing on our approved budget at June 11th, have kind of a conversation with our executives and hopefully some commissioners if you're able to stick around for that portion of the hearing. And then finally, we will request your formal adoption of the budget on June 24th in a special commission meeting. Next slide. So since last month's hearing, we really have only made minor changes. We have 3 funds that have a net change. I just kind of before we even get into just what the changes are, I just want to point out, like, these do not represent a change in our strategic priorities or any of our business plans. And I also, just because this was a point of conversation in the April hearing, we have not made any adjustments to our activity forecasts for the PDX or marine business lines. So, there's certainly economic uncertainty and volatility, but what we are hearing from our airline partners, specifically our kind of reps for the top 5 carriers, is they're really advising, no change in our activity forecasts at this point in time. So we're really just trying, not to react, kind of looking at the data. But again, we'll just continue to monitor that closely, and we may need to adjust those, but we're just not seeing data that requires an adjustment at this time. So looking at the key fund changes, so in the general fund, we're really only adjusting this fund by $565,000. It's a 0.1% change when you're factoring in all the resources and requirements here. There's actually several kind of ins and outs, but at the bottom line, the main change here is the increase in operating expenses associated with our enhanced community engagement strategy. I alluded to that in the April hearing, that you would kind of see some FTE changes. So we've added an FTE, but we've also reduced some FTE. So we have had some long vacant engineering positions that have been removed, really just as TCOR winds down. Within the airport revenue fund, we have a decrease of $3.2 million. It's a 0.5% decrease. The primary change here, we're just refining kind of our airline rates and charges. So we actually have a little better revenue sharing with the airlines. So that's actually reducing what we need to collect from them. And then also just some minor operating expense adjustments around our commercial paper program. We've reduced our letter of credit, so we have lower operating expenses associated with that. And then finally, the airport construction fund, a decrease of $2.9 million, 0.4% decrease. Those changes are actually the net impact of the changes that are happening in the airport revenue fund. So I think before I move on to kind of just actually request your approval of the budget, I just want to pause and see what questions commissioners have.
Questions, Commissioner Nemi?
Thank you. I'm curious, just because I hear you saying that you're not projecting right now basically any overall changes to, it seems like mostly the air traffic at the airport. But I've heard over time that some of the early indicators of a reduction in consumer confidence and spending here is parking, as well as the concessions and retail. So I'm curious how those are going.
Sure. So just thinking about our Q3 projection for the current fiscal year, our parking revenues are very strong, solidly outperformed budget in the month of March. I forget just like the total monthly kind of parking revenues, but I want to say our budget was around close to $90 million, but we were $2.2 million higher than forecast for the month of March alone. So just incredible spring break performance. And even kind of February year to date, we were still outperforming budget. So we are not seeing weakening in our non-airline revenue performance just across the board. I mean, even terminal concessions is outperforming budget by almost $2 million. So just we're not seeing that show up in our financials yet. So again, that's kind of when I say we're really looking for data. I think it's possible that some of this may lag, and we may have to sort of pivot once we're in the fiscal year. But we have tools, propped up, and we're monitoring, larger economic indicators, kind of in partnership with Kimberly Branham's team. And Dave Robertson's team. So we have kind of some task forces set up, just looking at kind of macroeconomic and then internal non-airline revenue performance and marine revenue and activity performance.
Any other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Sampath?
I really appreciate the difficulty of navigating this in times of uncertainty and mostly. So thank you, the entire team, to getting us here. We saw the bond market kind of wobble in early April. And in terms of kind of cost of borrowing and debt, et cetera, what are your kind of anticipated changes, or does the budget anticipate some of these things and provide for that?
I will say one of the things that it may not be readily apparent, just the way we have to kind of present our budget for statutory budget purposes, it can be kind of difficult sometimes, I think, to see just operationally and strategically what we're doing, just the way we have to show our budget. But we are planning a refunding of our existing debt in the fiscal year 26 budget. So you'll see a lot of that show up in the airport revenue bond fund in that approved budget document. So, the team is actually working and preparing for that refunding now. But I do just want to say we won't proceed with that if market conditions are not favorable and the savings, don't produce that. But I do that's a little bit more Antoinette's bailiwick. So I kind of want to let her add some color there.
All right. Thank you, Fran. Bear with me here. So let me respond this way. We have, if you look at our entire debt portfolio, roughly $3 billion, less than 1.5%, it's around 1.5% is variable debt. So we don't have that exposure. So the portfolio from a cost perspective is fixed. And $2 billion of that we've just recently issued for the T-Corps, the weighted average cost of debt for that, we were able to lock in fixed rates at about 4.1% if you do it on a weighted average basis. So I think the other thing that is important for us to give some consideration to is just how this is not a dictionary word, but flip-floppy the market is. Because a couple of months ago, we were talking about indicators pointing to a stagflationary environment. And just as early as this morning, that sentiment has started to change, where soft landing and some of the decisions that Jerome Powell, Chair Powell, the Fed chair, is making are the right calls. So in other words, he is not accelerating decreasing interest rates, which is a clear indication that maybe the speed of which the economy is softening is happening. So we're not seeing that yet. So that has at least been pushed back a little bit. But to Fran's point, we will continue to monitor ways in which we can take advantage of where the curve is to be able to manage that portfolio and reduce costs. But I feel really good about where we are just in terms of the fixed portion of the portfolio, controlling the costs, so we can manage to those over the next 30 years.
Thank you, Antoinette. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Okay, so next slide. So at this time, staff requests approval of the executive director's recommendation to approve the port's fiscal 26 budget and authorize submission to the TSCC.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I insert myself here?
Sure.
Madam President, Commissioners, I just want you to know we're expecting the state economic forecast today to be down significantly, I think in the neighborhood of $500 million. So we're tracking this, and to your question, Commissioner Sampat, we'll come back to you if we're out of budget in year. Antoinette and her team have been really focused on a conservative approach and to maintain as many of the tools in year as possible. If we have an absolute bust, which we tend not to have, but if we do, we'll come back to you, obviously, and we'll keep you informed as the year progresses. So I think it's, we also want to be cautious and make sure we aren't funding ourselves out, but appreciate your support and the team's work on this budget. It's a kooky year. The markets are yippee. I understand that's a thing. No, not flip-floppy. Well, okay. Thank you.
Our next agenda item, quickly. Dan, did you want to say anything introducing it?
Not about the budget, no, thanks. Good morning again, Commissioner. I'll do this from the back row. This is an item to request your approval of a collective bargaining agreement between the Port of Portland and AFSCME Local 189, which represents 15 of our employees who work as parking enforcement agents out on the roadway at PDX. I'd just like to call out these employees. They perform a very important both safety function, a capacity function, and a security function in making sure that the roadway continues to move, people don't linger. It's oftentimes a very difficult job to do because nobody wants to be told to move on from the curb. So just noting they're here from 4 in the morning to about 1 in the morning. And here to present the item is Blaise Lamphere, Labor Relations Manager, and Diego Rosado, the PDX Landside and Terminal Senior Manager.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Morning, Commissioners. Next slide, please. The PDX parking control representatives are a team of 15 people who actively manage the traffic on the roadway, as Dan mentioned. Critical to the operation and getting even more critical as our peak passenger volumes increase and our curbside remains the same. It's also worth noting that they are critical to our customer experience. For many of our passengers, they are the first touch point for departing passengers and the last touch point for arriving passengers, and they really go above and beyond on a daily basis to make sure our customers have that fantastic PDX experience. In addition to being vital to port operations, they are prime candidates for career growth at the port. They former parking control agents serve in roles in marine operations, aviation operations, and aviation business and properties. I'll now turn it over to Blaise to cover the highlights of the new contract. Next slide. Next slide, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Want to take you through some of this. Before I do, I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize the president of AFSCME 189 is here with us today. He was a joint chair on their side of the negotiating team, Rob Martineau, and also John McIntyre, our PEA, who is here in the audience as well, was a member of the team that negotiated for the union. So appreciate it. Wanted to acknowledge that. After agreeing to ground rules on September 12th, 2024, the parties held 9 sessions of negotiation and 1 session of a mediation with the state for a successor CBA to the agreement that expired June 30th, 2024. On March 18th, 2025, the port and the union reached a tentative agreement on a mediation proposal. On April 4th, 2025, the union reported that its members had ratified the tentative agreement for a 4-year successor CBA. I want to break down some of the details of the key changes to the CBA here. So the term of agreement of the new CBA, July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2028. Wages effective retroactive to July 11, 2024. Wages for each classification shall increase by 8%. The retroactivity shall apply to the employees covered by the agreement who are employed on the date the commission approves the agreement. I want to note that with the 8%, what you have is both a wage increase and a market adjustment based on how we read the market for comparable work for this unique classification. The following years after that, effective July 10th, 2025, wages for each classification increased by 3%, and then 3% again in July 26 and 27. There is an additional step for wages effective July 10th, 2025. Top step after 4 years is added to the wage scale that is 5% higher than the other specific steps. So that's a new step and puts it more in line with some of our other more comparable internal positions. Shift differentials move currently. We have a shift differential to moving to $1.50 per hour in 2025. 2026, that increases to $2 per hour and to $2.75 in July of 27. There was one additional holiday added in this contract, but rather than a specific holiday as a fixed date, it's actually one personal leave day per year that functions equivalent to a floater for the unit. Next slide, please. Brand new to this contract, there's a safety incentive, which we have in a couple of other of our contracts. So effective beginning fall of calendar year this year, employees in a paid status are eligible for a safety incentive of up to $300 net for meeting annual metrics. This will include ambitious training, is my understanding, and the incentive is evaluated after the close of each fiscal year. Next item, there is a clothing allowance increase from an annual of $300 per contract year to $350 per contract year for clothing. Next slide, please. Okay, here's a breakdown of estimated financial impact in new dollars by yearly increase and a total increase in new money anticipated over the life of the CBA, which is estimated at $291,000 and $291,365 for the 4-year CBA. Next slide, please. The executive director's recommendation is an approval to enter into the 4-year collective bargaining agreement with AFSCME beginning July 1st, retroactively 2024.
Thank you. Thank you for the great presentation and for everyone's hard work in getting to this contract. Any comments or questions from commissioners? All right, can I have a motion and a second?
I
Do you have a comment, Commissioner
Well,
Lamb?
thank you so much for presenting this. I just have a few questions. If you can help me to understand. I did not understand in the additional step. Can you explain a new step after 4 years? What does that mean?
So our team members at the greatest tenure, after 4 years of tenure, they'll get this additional step in the scale. So that additional 5% raise for our longest tenured members.
So additional 5%. Okay. So then in the safety incentive, there's a $300 net for meeting annual metrics. What are those metrics?
The metrics are to be developed this year after approval of the contract.
Okay, to be developed.
Yeah, but the concepts and initial discussions are based around training.
Got it. So, I mean, I wouldn't agree. I mean, I'm in agreement with you that these workers are very critical to the airport about our passengers' experience because they're the first and the last, right? In here, any plan or can you share any of the customer service training or greetings? I mean, any of that implemented or we have budgeted in here?
Yeah, so we'll definitely do some customer service training. I think this group that we currently have on board has an innate sense of providing great customer service, and I don't worry about them at all. A lot of the training has to do with de-escalation, dealing with motorists, and managing traffic in a safe and effective manner. So that's really probably where we'll focus the safety training, but customer service-wise, we'll definitely have an emphasis and include them in our overall customer experience program as we develop that further.
I would love to see those, kind of trainings. I think that's very critical and appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, can I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Dan, you're still with us. I'm not sure if that's a good sign or not.
Couldn't shake.
I think it means they're doing just fine without me.
Have you introduced the last agenda item?
Thank you. This item is to request your approval for a purchase and sale agreement of about 15 and a half acres, a little more of land to Trammell Crow. This land is out at the Hillsborough Airport. It's not contiguous with the airport. And in our 2020 master plan, we determined that this was no longer really needed for aviation in the future. So we're in a process. Steve's been doing a great job of divesting of land we don't need and developing land we do need. So here to present that is Steve Winkle, Senior Manager of Airside Properties and General Aviation.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to present this purchase and sale agreement with Trammell Crow Portland Development. I'm Steve Winkle, Senior Manager of General Aviation and Airside Properties. Next slide, please. So the Commission action is this agenda item requests approval to execute the purchase and sale agreement conveying real property adjacent to the Hillsborough Airport from the Port of Portland to Trammell Crow for land assemblage in support of industrial development near the airport. Next slide, please. So a little bit of background, the Hillsborough Airport has been in existence since approximately 1928. And so it's been in place and part of that community now approaching 100 years. It was later acquired by the Port of Portland in 1966. And we've since owned and operated that airport as a general aviation reliever airport as part of our multi-airport system ever since. To help orient everyone, I have a graphic on screen that shows the port property boundary outlined in turquoise and the proposed sale property in solid yellow, which much of that solid yellow property we've had with us since the 70s, and it's been vacant the entire time. The less prominent orange outline is property that is owned or under contract by the developer and is being assembled as part of what they're calling as the Sewell Corporate Park. And over the decades, the airport has grown with a patchwork of land necessary to accommodate runways, taxiways, safety areas, buffer areas, and other airport facilities. And historically, these properties have been acquired in big parcels, sometimes, out in the Hillsborough area, big farm parcels. And what ends up happening is we have property, particularly at the outer edges, that isn't absolutely necessary for airport operations. And this is one such property. We further determine and test that the property is not needed now or in the future for airport operations through, as Dan indicated, an airport master planning process, which we do about every 10 to 15 years. That's a very robust multi-year deep dive into exploring everything about the airport operations, what it has now, what it needs in the future, very significant public involvement and collaboration with the FAA. We completed our last one in a fairly recent timeframe, adopted in 2019. And again, the finding was that this property is not needed for airport operations into the future. So jumping back to the orange outline, I would like to note that the developer's property largely interlocks the proposed sale property with two kind of odd-shaped puzzle pieces that fit together. And working with this, the developer is able to assemble a single large property, which makes sense for creating a solid development opportunity. Next slide, please. So key terms. So it's proposed that the sale agreement is selling the land fee simple, and that's to match the neighboring developer property, the underlying ownership. We've established the property is not needed for aviation use. And I do want to note that we're also going to retain of these parcels. We're going to retain the red portion, which is part of the runway protection zone, which is a very operationally sensitive part of an airport. And then we're also going to retain the green area as well, which is for environmental use. Running through the green area is the Glencoe Swale, and outside of those edges, we're able to develop what is known as vegetated corridor mitigation credits, which is necessary to accommodate development on the airport proper. So this summer, we have some projects that need to have some mitigation credits developed. We can do that here. And so we intend to keep that portion of the property as well. So essentially, this transaction allows the port to retain all property useful for port purposes and sell all remaining property that the port does not need. And in addition to creating an optimized transaction for the port, the sale would contribute to the supply of industrial land available in the Hillsborough area. This proposal is strongly supported by the city of Hillsborough, which believes that large lot aggregation will lead to beneficial development, contributing to enhanced property within their, contribute to enhanced prosperity within their community. Additional key terms, obviously it allows for significant industrial land assemblage. It's proposed that the acquisition property is approximately 15.72 acres. There will be a property line adjustment process and also a final true-up survey at the end, so that can adjust a little bit, but it's going to be very close to that number. There's the fair market value associated with this property is approximately $11,809,000, and that valuation is derived from a 3 appraisal process, which is required by the FAA for all transactions over $1 million. So we can feel very good and very confident that that's a very defensible number. And it translates into $1,725 a square foot for that property. And essentially, when we do the true up at the end, when the sale closes later in the year, it will be whatever the final square footage is times that $1,725. I'd also note that we have 2 dedications that are being sold as part of this transaction. They are for the benefit of the city of Hillsborough, but they are funded by Trammell Crow. So that's why I mentioned them in this transaction. Very minor, and they run along the edges of Sewell and 273rd. We will also receive fair market value for those. And then last, I would note that the sales proceeds from this transaction will go for reinvestment in the Hillsborough Airport. We've done a number of previous land sales. We're gathering those funds for reinvestment at this airport specifically. Next slide, please. Brings me to the executive director recommendation, which is approval to execute this purchase and sale agreement conveying real property adjacent to the Hillsborough Airport from the port to Trammell Crow Portland Development for land assemblage in support of industrial development near the airport. Thank you. Are there questions I can answer?
Thank you. I think we have one for sure. Commissioner Lamb.
Sorry, I just have a question today. But I just want to ask really quick around this, on the edge of this red line here, is there neighborhoods around that affecting at all? Or it's surrounded this property of ours? There's homes, neighborhoods, community around there?
Yes, but there is a significant portion is industrial development. This is zoned for this type of development. It's a general industrial.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm just hoping that they're okay. I mean, if there's any conversations we need to tell them or let them know anything about their deals or anything like that, just to make sure that we, be a good neighbor. That we're moving on to the next neighbor.
I don't know that we do outreach to every household in the area. We follow the zoning that the city of Hillsborough sets, and that's who the authority is on what types of developments can happen there. We're just a landowner doing the transaction. So I think if we thought this was going to be a very controversial use, like a petrochemical facility, we might be having a different conversation. But this is zoned industrial, and that's what the land is for.
Great. Again, I just want to make sure, but thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Great. Can I get a motion and a second for the executive director's recommendation? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple of things before we adjourn. First of all, some of you may have heard Christina Kelchner is at a child's graduation this week back east, but we have Dan Gilkinson sitting in for Christina today. And we wanted to especially call out Dan because he is new to a position, a promotion within the port after 20 years in the port, our new director of engineering. Congratulations, we're thrilled to have you. And more importantly, look at that mug. Yes, woo, woo, woo. Go Beavs. Thanks, Dan. Good to have you and congratulations again. And then secondly, commissioners, I know there's been a lot of conversations in a variety of settings since our last special meeting. And I just wanted to take a moment again. If you hadn't had a chance to read the scintillating executive director's message in the budget document, the first couple paragraphs are actually worth reviewing because it stresses again the port's commitments to its mission around shared prosperity and its values to helping to create a thriving community and a thriving workforce. And I know staff has been having a lot of conversations internally, and I just want to thank you for that. It's not always easy, but it's the right thing to do. And I'm paraphrasing a conversation that Antoinette had. She didn't use these terms, but I do because I'm from Pendleton, right? Now is a great time to make lemonade out of lemons. And there really is an opportunity to kind of dig deep with staff about the work that we're doing and how we're doing that work and encouraging everything that we do and the reasons why we do it. This is a terrific organization, and that's not going to change. And it's actually a chance to take it to the next step, not in a way that perhaps we would have envisioned or preferred, but it is an opportunity. And so I just strongly encourage all the hard work that's going on, continuing that hard work. You have the commission's support 110%. Anything that you need from us, and most of all, thank you. Thank you to everyone in the organization and for the work that we have ahead of us. We can do good things together. So thank you. Have a great month till next month. Meeting's adjourned. I do have Pendleton glasses.